Mr. Treveline here, and we're starting our biology. Things I have to show you today are going to be today, so I have to get this lecture in. This will be for freshmen and for AP Biology. If you're in AP Biology, you're going to receive a book like this. We'll talk more about that later. But this is the book you'll need to pick up and read on your own. I'm going to expect you to have to do some of that on your own, and then through Zoom or whatever, we'll have ways to answer your questions. So I set up my little room down here, and I'm going to show you a couple of specimens. Like I said, they're only going to be here for a couple days, so we have to do this today. But what I'm going to talk about in a very short period of time is probably between, hopefully under 10 minutes, is growth and development, vertebrates, lysosomes, thyroid hormone, the Hox gene, and then this false statement I want to throw at you, this ontogeny recapitulates phylogeny. It's a false statement, but you'll see why I'm tying all these things here together. If you want to write them down, that's fine. Like I said, I'm going to record these. We'll worry about our learning techniques later. And before I forget, at least AP Biology, I've sent out the safety contract. If you can get those back to me, I'd like to start working on things now. And so I need those safety contracts, and you can just take a picture of the signatures and send those to me. So anyway, we're going to talk about growth and development here briefly. Growth and development, when we talk about growth, we're just talking about an increase in size. We're going to say an increase in biomass, and I apologize ahead of time. All these large terms all have fancy definitions. We're going to always try to shorten them up. We're going to shorten them up into things that make sense to us. I think we mainly know growth is, increase in body weight, right? And we're going to see that today with our specimen, but we're also going to see development. We're going to see a change in these animals from simple structures to more complex structures. And again, I'll talk about that in a minute. The specimen I'm going to show you today is a vertebrate, which means it has a backbone. When we do our scavenger hunt, it's a term I'm going to want you to know. Animals with backbones are ones that we're used to seeing. They have a structure in their back, and their spinal cord runs through their back. And I want to talk about this structure called a lysosome, which contains hydrolytic enzymes. It's going to break down structures for development. And you say, break down for development? Yeah, sometimes we need to break things down for development. It's not always built up. And in this example I'll show you today, you'll see that. The hormone that we're going to be working with today is called a thyroid hormone. This thyroid hormone is going to be for growth and metabolism. And today you're going to see what it does to my specimen. And I'm going to briefly talk about this Hox gene, which might be a little over your head right now, but we'll throw it out there just for the sake of argument. So my buddy I want to show you today, and I don't know if he's going to cooperate. We will try here. Is this guy. My wife and daughter are my camera crew today.
He's a frog.
Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. He doesn't like all the lights probably. But anyway, I want you to look at his back end here. He's still got a tail, right? Well, not for long, and that's why I had to do this lecture today. All right, can you see his? Can you see his tail?
Oh yeah, yeah.
And he's using that as a food source. He stopped eating, but he was a tadpole not too long ago. Stay a minute. Okay, can you get close up? But anyway, he's going to turn into a monster bullfrog about the size of my hand. And he's been developing all this year, but he developed too fast. And I was afraid he was going to lose that tail before you ever got to see him. He is a vertebrate. And what I wanted to talk about just briefly is what's making that tail become digested. And it's a cellular structure called a lysosome. And it's being digested. He's using that as a food source. If you were able to take some of these cells out of this tail, you would see that those specialized cells would contain many, many of these structures called lysosomes. And they're responsible for destroying that tail and using it as a food source as he goes from a herbivore, a tadpole, to a carnivore. And I'll show you what he looked like before this. And this only happens if that thyroid hormone is present. Otherwise, we'd have a perpetual tadpole. He needs that thyroid hormone to do that. So not only are we seeing growth, Bullfrog's going to get bigger in mass, but we're also seeing development. He's going from tadpole to frog, right? An adult bullfrog. This guy here now is just starting to develop his legs. I don't know if you can see his back legs, but notice he's still got his tail. He's still swimming in the water. I promise I'm not hurting him. And he's only eating algae, right? I don't know if you can get his back legs.
I can
Is that
get him
better?
in there.
Yeah, we'll get him in there.
There we go.
Neither one are cooperating tail. But notice how much bigger that tail is.
You can see that.
And he's still eating plants. My frog has stopped eating until that tail's gone, and his development has changed from a herbivore to a carnivore. Now, the reason they do this is the same reasons we develop. And this idea of a Hox gene is a gene that is very, very ancient, very, very primitive gene that is responsible for where the legs develop, where the body parts develop. And it's the same in us as it is in this tadpole, as it is in a fruit fly. So this gene has been around a long, long time. And again, I'm just throwing that out there now, called the Hox gene. The last thing I want to talk about just shortly, and I should be under my 10 minutes, I'm guessing, is this idea of ontogeny recapitulates phylogeny. Oh, there should be an S on that, recapitulates. And really, all that means, and again, biology is filled with these big terms. Please do not let these intimidate you. Later on, I'll have videos of my former students who are doctors and vets and everything. They'll come on Zoom or one of those, or on Google Classroom, and tell you about these things. But one of the things they'll parrot that I've always said is, don't get bogged down by the terminology, right? You'll know enough biology to figure things out later. But the idea of this is ontogeny is how you develop as an individual, how you go from tadpole to frog. That's what ontogeny is. Phylogeny, on the other hand, is how we evolved into all these different species. For example, I'm pretty sure these are bullfrog tadpoles. But to be honest with you, I gotta wait for him to develop. It may be a green frog. They're really close, and they develop the same way. Well, scientists a long time ago jumped to conclusions, and what they thought was that you could watch an individual develop. You could watch an individual go from tadpole to frog, and it replays all of evolution. It replays how we got all our different species. Plus, they like the way it probably rhymed, huh? Ontogeny recapitulates phylogeny. But again, you need to remember that it's a false statement. But what we do with that statement, what we do with these developments, is we want to see how the tadpole develops to know how we develop. Because we are also vertebrates, and we have a lot of similar structures. We're going to use those embryological structures of the tadpole to compare to human embryos, right? And we're going to watch the way they develop, and we're going to see some similarities and some differences. I'm Roy Treveline. This is your first bio lesson, and no frogs were harmed in this process. Thank you. Get your safety contract in.